And away we go.
And this is episode 27, and I believe this will be part one. We said the last one was going to be part one.
We changed our
but I think we're changing our minds, which means that our intro to our description of food will be in the second part, which is not normal, but whatever.
Well, we can do it twice. Hey, we got pizza.
Yeah,
we got pizza.
Pizza, East Side Pies.
East Side Pies.
Yeah, but this one feels like it's more timely because it's unfortunately more serious, and it is the railroading of Pam Bondi versus Congress. Well, the world actually, in some ways. On Friday, where she basically
Versus reality.
Versus reality. I mean, she basically darvoed everybody that talked to her, assuming that she spoke to him at all. Apparently, if it was somebody female, she pretty much ignored him. And the people she was, the victims she was supposed to be helping and talking about, she literally turned her back on them, would not even look them in the eye, would not shake their hands, would not acknowledge them, even though that was the subject of everything. It was like, even if you know what's going on, for her to have said things the way that she did was just mind-numbingly insulting and just, I mean, I think this goes beyond 1984 type doublespeak. This is just...
For anyone who might not, who knows, may not know exactly the context here, what was she up in front of Congress talking about?
Okay, to explain, a huge number of additional Epstein files have been released, and about 12, I don't know exactly the number, but approximately 12, at least one man as well, victims of Epstein were in the audience, or whatever you call it, representing themselves, and this was basically her accounting for why she has not met with them, and why she very, very badly released the most recent files. What was done is the names of the perpetrators were redacted. The names of the victims were not. So she was basically putting the victims under a microscope by doing that, and would not even apologize for doing that. So either there was there wasn't a legitimate reason, but she didn't come up with a legitimate lie, and she did not apologize for doing that. And that in itself was almost criminal right there.
Right. So here she is the head of this department, right? And then she's gutted out all these people, different departments, and she said she was de-weaponizing, because de-weaponizing meaning everything that was actually criminal that they were going after, like Trump and everything else that this department is supposed to be fucking doing, that it was doing previous against the administration that's currently in power, was her, once again, Darvo. And if anybody doesn't know what this means, it's deny. So if somebody says something to you like, hey man, you hurt me, or why'd you do that? They deny it. They attack the person who said that to them. They reverse it. Now that the person who did that to someone pretends to be the victim, and you're the offender. The person who brought it up to them is the offender now. So it's the reversal. Before, there was this term called Darvo, right? That I stumbled across upon about 2 years ago, maybe, or a year and a half ago. Me and Joanne used to call it the reversal.
Yeah.
So anytime there was we would do any narcissists in our life, and this is before we even knew what narcissists were, before the definition. A narcissist always kind of had this thing, that guy's full of himself, he's full of ego. But that's before I understood the grandiose false self, the empty container, all these other things that a narcissist truly is, right? And the Darvo of a narcissist, because internally they're nothing, they're a core, they're nothing. They project everything outward because they have nothing in. They don't have an identity. So what ends up happening is the same thing happened with Caroline Levitt, in that press conference the other day, when she was asked about things, and she said, "Do you know the stats?" And then she attacked the person. You always notice, okay. And like I said, if you've seen our videos before, I've said it a million times. Once you start to recognize how these narcissists, or these people that are extremely fragile, they're insecure. They're insanely insecure people. So any insult to them or what they're saying, they're going to reverse it, and then you become the victim, or they're the victim now, and you're the offender, right? Even though what you're saying is true, but they can't take accountability. Accountability is just, it's not possible. In their brain, reality, facts don't matter anymore. That's why it's so insanely frustrating for, the rest of society, the rest of humanity, the rest of the world to watch this fragment of society, this small MAGA fragment, which, if you were to look at it just within America's 20, 30, tops 40%, the hardcore MAGA probably within the 30 percentile range, somewhere in there. And, and that's just in America alone, so 70 million, whatever the case might be, of how many, more than that probably, of these people that are just hardcore, just insane, because this is psychosis. And you compare that to the rest of the world where you got, billions of people.
Well, because you brought up the rest of the world, I just want to point out that part of why this is so insane right now is the rest of the world, they have the same files, and they are holding their people who are showing up in the files accountable. They are trying to get them removed from office or put in prison or what have you. They are actually holding them accountable. And, well, in a nutshell, we're not.
Right. And I just want to keep repeating this so that it sticks in people's heads, so that they can recognize these kinds of individuals out in society, because these people are everywhere. And if they're not political, they're in your life, they're going to be in your life somehow. And, and we've allowed for these individuals to pretty much colonize and dictate the terms on which we live ever since anyone called themselves a king, which is basically a very insecure person who wants control of everything. And this is not normal human behavior. Normal human behavior is not like this, but we're trapped in this. And the people who fall victim to it, who aren't resisting this tyranny, fall victim to it, become trauma bonded with it, and they think if they become close to this power that they can assimilate into it, and that's just not the case in most cases. And then if you look throughout history, it's always, if you have these kinds of like undemocratic kings and rulers, it's just ruler attacking ruler and using everyone else as pawns. So, and we've been trying to get to this kind of a democratic, state, here in the United States and Europe for a little while here. And then there was egalitarian cultures and societies throughout history too as well. But there was always battles, in between here and there. But I think with, as we start to modernize a little bit further and we're starting to understand this behavior, we start to recognize that when we see people like this, don't let them get in power. Do not let them get in control. Because once they do, they're going to colonize. It's not only physical colonization of property and land, it's colonization of people's minds and beings.
Which is the hardest thing to
unravel.
undo.
Because look at America, man. They not only colonized this country physically with the land and nature and everything else, but the minds of the people that occupied this country, and even convinced everybody here who, is still living under this, that they're somehow the good guys. When it started with genocide and slavery and exploitation, and it started with indentured servitude and slave wage, and not until the 1900s. So this is this thing, man. And there was a brief period of time when that was starting to get better, and then now they're back to where they were, trying to go back to where it was. And this, once again, I said this goes to this narcissism, and I'm just going to repeat this time and time again because it just keeps popping up every week. You just you can just see it happening. Where this is the individual case of the individual not taking accountability, can't see reality. They literally can't even see reality anymore. Because all they're going to say is, well, the Dow is $50,000.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that was the insane thing. She didn't say it was 50,000 points. She said $50,000. Like, she literally didn't even know what she was saying.
Right.
But on top of that, okay, first, the Dow is not the economy, as I've said before. But prices are up, unemployment is up. So when you've got that going on, the Dow is an outlier to the rest of the economy right now. Who cares? But even if the economy were doing well, that's not the topic that they were on. They were on the topic of PDFs, okay? Yeah. High government officials perpetrating PDF behavior on little kids.
Right.
And so it had nothing to do with the economy. Like, I don't give a damn if the economy's bad, good, whatever. That you're trying to jump onto another topic to avoid. Like, what the hell? And then there was one point where I think it was Ted Lieu who he said something, and she said, "Don't you dare accuse me of a crime." And he said, "You're not only lying, but we've got it on videotape now."
Yeah.
He didn't miss a beat. He was just like, "Ma'am, stop it." You know,
Right. So, like I said, people start. There is no conversation with these people. You can't. You cannot have a conversation because they're so baked into the sauce now that reality doesn't exist. It's the grandiose false self of the country, of the nation, of MAGA, of the individual, and it all stems from the individual who orchestrates this stuff and then occupies and colonizes the minds of everybody. It's the tyranny of perspective, as one guy put it. You know, they're gonna everything that happens. They can't see any other point of view, regardless of the facts. You know, and Caroline Levitt, explained that, or just illustrated that perfectly when she said something to a reporter like, "Do you know what the numbers are of these immigrants who are committing crimes?" So then, and I don't believe that and this is the thing too, is I don't think that, and I was just telling Al this earlier, I don't think that these reporters should even ask questions anymore. They should just sit there and ridicule her and call her an idiot. And like, what are you going to do? Come up here and lie? Like, why are you lying again? Should be the question. Why are you lying again? That's not the truth. And then she says, "Well, I'm going to kick you out. You can't come." Just be like, "Okay." And then everybody should do that. And she can just talk in front of a fucking empty room.
Yep.
And that's what they should do at this point, because it's so fucking ludicrous. You cannot be a respectable human being and sit in that room and listen to what she's saying and be a legitimate reporter of any integrity and not just be like, "You're full of shit, bitch."
Well, and the other thing is, I don't care whether it's the BBC or NPR or whoever.
Don't repeat what she says.
Well, if you're going to repeat their narrative, you need to follow it up with the truth.
The truth. But no, they're not. Even the BBC sometimes isn't doing that now.
I know, and it's disgusting.
Or NPR at least.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Like, you guys are so beholden to their money. Like, you're supposed to be national public radio, and you're so like on the purse strings of this insanity. Like, my God, man, all this fucking shit's compromised now. Nobody, because this is the tyranny that happens. Everybody's so goddamn afraid to talk the truth. You've worked a place like that. I know anybody's watching this. You worked there and had that boss. Nobody can tell the truth to the boss because he's such a fucking little imbecile, like piece of wormy shit. Can't handle the truth. Because it destroys their sense of self. So they're going to project it back on.
Yeah, but the whole point of public broadcasting, for example, not ABC or whatever, but
Right.
public broadcasting is that there's supposed to be
Right.
a wall beyond that where they can go ahead and tell the truth.
Right. So, anyways, she goes on there and says this, right? But what happened was, this guy made a reel on Facebook, and it's probably on TikTok and everywhere else, where he's just like, "Okay, let me show you the facts." So he pulls them all up from their own data sheet, right? From the Homeland Security stuff. There was 20, what was it, 8 or 9? 28
incidents,
murders from illegal, 28, the whole country for a whole year.
And if you want to broaden out the definition of crime, at most, I think it's a lot less than this, but at most, 30% of those that they've been going after have committed any type of crime.
Right, and only less than 5 violent crime.
Right.
So here's the thing. So here are these numbers, right? So let's extrapolate on this. Let's dig into this for a second. So if you've got 20-something murders, right? And then he listed off all the other ones, like, aggravated assault, sexual assault, aggravated robbery. All these numbers didn't add up into hundreds, not thousands, not tens of thousands, not millions, hundreds.
Drop in the buckets.
Right, something like that. Look up the numbers yourself. But the numbers are so low.
But again, we're getting those numbers from their website. We're not getting it nothing we're trying to cobble together on the side, but from the numbers they've presented.
They presented these numbers. These are the numbers they presented themselves, right?
Yeah.
So here's the numbers, right? So you're going to put this army together with a budget larger than the Marines to go after such a small. So now, okay. So you can say, well, because then the numbers come out to say I think it was 28, but there was 6,000 something, 800 and something, white people committed murder, right? Or something.
Similar crimes,
homicide, right? Homicide. But there's more white people than there are whatever. But if you look at the numbers and compare and look at the percentage, you're 17 times more likely to commit a homicide if you're a white dude than an immigrant. 17 times. Not double, not 100% more likely, not 200% more, 1,700% more likely, 17 times more likely to commit a homicide. So we gotta get armies in the streets, right? So if their narrative is true, right, that they've got all these warrants for all these arrests, right, and that's all they're doing, why do you need 2,500 people in a city to service 41 warrants?
Well, I keep saying,
Like every one of these incidents, you had a warrant for these guys. You would have like 15 guys or 200 guys for every warrant.
I keep saying, if their narrative is true, they look really bad because it's like
Worst
you
humans.
can't do this with the resources that you have.
They
Which
were
at this
already
point
doing it.
yeah.
Is the point? These people are already doing it.
Well, no, but they're not getting the people that they claim they're going to be
Right.
getting. They're getting random Joe Blow.
Right. And then like
I mean,
so
and
she
half of these-
literally exposed herself
Yeah.
by saying, "Do you know the numbers? Okay, let's dig them up." And then, but if you tried to present that to her, right, and you showed her and then explained to her the insanity of that, and then did all those numbers, she will find a way to deny it, to do something, or and when they can't do that anymore, and they start to like get so they'll just 5,000, 50,000. The dollar's at 50,000.
Some
Their
random
brain
thing, yeah.
malfunctions. It's like a computer malfunctioning. Because there's just no defense. It's like sometimes, like I'll have these, like I don't know what you call it, debate discussions with people, and then I'll just start whipping off these things. They go, "I just don't want to argue with you." It's like, yeah, because you're so wrong. You can't.
Yeah.
Because there's no argument to be had.
Right.
There's no argument to be had. You're just fucking wrong. Like if you like consider yourself a respectable human who even understands like how things work in the world or scientific method or anything, you have to admit that you're wrong and that you're just trying to protect your identity.
For
and
what
ego.
it's worth, it's back under 5,000. It's 49,500 as of Friday. So
Who cares? It doesn't
yeah,
matter.
I know,
It
but
has
I'm
nothing to do with
just
the
throwing that
economy.
out there. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah,
not a big point.
It's got
but-
nothing to do with anything.
Yeah, it
Who
doesn't
gives
really.
a fuck? But the goddamn Dow Jones. So anyways, yeah. So there she is with this shit. So and this just goes on and on and on. And people have to learn. Society cannot exist as long as these people are allowed to fucking talk bullshit. And they've been around forever too, and everybody's had words from sleazy salesmen and everything. And Trump, look, we said this a year. If that dude wasn't born into money, he would probably be in prison or dead, because he would have starved to death in the streets or got arrested for a crime because he's got he's just a criminal.
Because he has no defense, yeah. His
Right.
defense is his money, and even then, he doesn't
Right.
have as much money as...
He paid his way out of everything, you know. He would be in jail, or he would have starved to death, or been
Most people would have gone to jail just for not paying their bills the way that he's not paid bills.
or just gotten,
Or any
if his
number of
criminal
things.
elements would have been a little more seedier and in the back alleys, they would have just killed his ass.
Yeah.
Like he just would be a dead man for the bullshit that he's pulled. Like if he was like. If it wasn't for the fact that he could hide behind laws and just like stiff employees and just be like, okay, fine, I'm just not going to pay. Go ahead and try to do that to a loan shark. Like, you know, understand what I'm
Well,
saying?
and just
I think that's why he's got problems. with
another
Russia.
point for the few people out there who believe us but haven't followed along as closely as you might have, the stuff that you thought he was being accused of in the Epstein files, the recent stuff makes that look like nothing.
Yeah,
It's much worse.
it
I
gets
won't. I'm not going to
Not even
go
going
down
to
that
go there.
road.
No, but
it's-
even
it's-
Epstein said he's the worst, most vile human he's ever come across.
Yeah.
That's what Epstein said.
Right.
And there ain't a person who's ever worked with the man, or been in his cabinet, who talked to the guy anymore. Who almost every single one of them always said he's the worst human ever. The guy who's in his cabinet now, Rubio, all these guys have said that he's a narcissistic lunatic. How is the man president? How is the man president?
Can we side jump just a tiny little bit, because we probably shouldn't for more than 2 minutes, but that reminds me of Rubio was over in Europe for some big talk, and apparently the last time a year ago it was JD, and so the statement that was made was that basically Rubio didn't say anything any different, but that JD is such a horrible human being that anybody who would have said the same thing would have come across better than JD.
Yeah.
And so there, by comparison, oh, Rubio looked great, but only because he's being compared to JD.
Look, JD Vance is another one of these. Just look, he's changed his name like 4 or 5 times. This insane story about him, hillbilly like whatever the hell that thing is a lie. Like his whole fucking background is bullshit. He's been fucking groomed by Teal and financed by this. He's just another, and he even called Trump a lunatic. He's just an opportunist.
Yep.
He is a pathetic worm, swindler, opportunist. And him and Trump, like I said, if they weren't backed by money or have money somehow, however, to get this people convinced of this bullshit, they'd be selling fucking fake watches in the street.
Yeah.
Begging for coins.
Well, and you heard about JD at the Olympics, right?
No.
He took ice with him.
Oh, but he took ice with him.
But he didn't just take ice with him. Apparently, he took 13 planes worth of ice with him. How the fuck? Why the fuck? I don't know. It makes no sense to me. But then what the Italians...
What were you doing there? Walking around trying to
Well, apparently they're walking around getting their asses kicked, literally.
Good. Let them.
But...
I hope they do.
Well, at least some of them did. I've seen video of these hordes of Italians just like stomping on them, basically.
Good. Pummel the shit out of them. Yeah. Believe me, they got warrants. There's not enough. Like I said, it'd be 50 guys per, probably 5,000 guys per warrant. That's how ridiculous this shit is.
Yeah.
So yeah, are there some criminals out there? Yeah, of course. There's some criminals out there. There's always going to be.
And we're not making excuses for the criminals.
Right, and they should be
nobody's
found out
doing
and justice, whatever that might be. Put them in jail.
But like Renee and Alex, nothing has been presented.
Look, if you send them back, right, they're just going to come back. So put them in prison.
Right.
Fucking do it again. If it's like repeat offenders who obviously can't be, or you're trying to rehabilitate them somehow, or whatever you can do. But if you can't, you gotta lock them up. But that's a whole other discussion, about justice and all that shit. But if nobody is out there saying we should just open the borders, let criminals in. But that's not.
Since you brought up that, once again, there is no fucking open border, and there never has been, or at least not in the last 100 years, a fucking open border. So just
not.
Just
and the crime of being here undocumented
is a misdemeanor, not a felony.
Is like a jaywalking charge. So get over yourself. Look, Billie Eilish said something, right? And she got backlash. It's insane. She said nobody here is illegal on stolen land, right? So then they're like, oh, say that in your $13 million mansion. It doesn't matter. Like, so what?
It doesn't matter if it's $1 billion or 500,000.
It's what she's trying to say is I'm legal. She didn't say anything about how much her fucking house costs.
Yeah.
This is the kind of
why does that have anything to do with it?
Right. I'm still legal. What I'm saying is he's legal too. And so am I. And so is anybody who wants to come here. It's flat down and build a $12 million house. Anyone is. I'm still no, but this is the thing, dude. Every time they think they got a clap back or they got you or something, you're always like, dude, do you think that's a flex? You sound like a fucking moron. Trump derangement syndrome. Like, dude, that's
well, and for anybody who...
Once again, that's the Darbo.
Yeah, anybody who wants to throw that out there, the only reason we give a damn about the guy is because he happens to be fucking president, so it matters that he's a lunatic, okay?
Look, if you have a boss or a father or a husband who's an abuser, it's going to affect your life and make you deranged.
Yeah.
So the only person,
right now, all of us are deranged. The whole fucking country.
You're deranged because you're in a trauma bond with this asshole. That is the true derangement. That you could vote for a proven pedophile who, by his own admission, by the words he said, by the Epstein files, and a assaulter of every age woman, by his own admission, and by 28 fucking crimes. On top of his fact that he has over 4,000 litigations, 34 felony convictions, untold of people saying shit about him, hundreds of millions in fines. Who's deranged? Who the fuck is deranged? God damn.
The fact that he kidnapped people out of a foreign nation, regardless of what you think about that nation's government, absolutely regardless.
You can't just go in and fly in and kidnap somebody.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way. Though apparently, I guess now it does.
I wish somebody would do that to Trump.
Yeah.
God damn. This shit. It's gotten out of control. I'm so sick of this shit. So sick of this shit. What the hell's going on here?
My final words. We don't really have a problem with coming up with it's subjects. I mean, if we felt to it like it, we do a third one. But if you have any ideas, feel free to pop them in the comments. That's all I'm saying.
Give us an idea.
Yeah.
Maybe something related to politics or something, but maybe something else a little different, even if it could be tied into politics somehow. But yeah, give us some ideas if you can. This has gone 25 minutes. This is going to be our last episode.
Yeah.
But a bunch of shit here.
If it's not about politics, then have it piggyback off of something we've said before. So
right.
Yeah.
If it's about movies or
music or whatever,
or psychology or science or history, and of course it's all going to
everything ties back.
Everything's politics at the end, but we'll try to keep it away from I guess you understand what we're trying to say.
Yeah, because part of it is. We feel like we're kind of recycling our own ideas, and if you throw something new, then it's like, oh, cool, we'll do that.
It's just hard not to, because it's the same thing over and over and over again. And I just want to pound this point home, because I think it takes repeated efforts for people to come out of it, even if you understand what we're saying, it needs to be reinforced. And if you partially understand, you're going to really need to be told 100 times before it really sinks in. So, yeah.
Yep. Have a good one.
Have a good one.